on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now.
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, we are back with another video, and boy oh boy has it taken me a couple of days to recover. So on the 28th, I believe, which was a Sunday, I went to a regional, which was probably about a 2-hour drive, but me and a bunch of friends decided to go down the night before and just kind of like chill in a hotel, have a few drinks, and it was a little bit epic, to say the least. When we say we had a few drinks, there was a lot of drinks that were had, and I didn't end up going to bed until probably about 4 a.m. in the morning, and obviously registration started at like 10:30 or something like that, so I had a minimal sleep, and some of us didn't even go to sleep, so it was absolutely crazy. But that kind of hampered my actual play. It took me about 2 rounds to fully know what I was actually doing, which was crazy. But it was 7 rounds. I think there was 126 people, and I managed to finish 44th, which wasn't bad. Decided to take Floowandereeze, which is a little bit out of the norm. I've always said that I like the deck, but I didn't really know what else I wanted to play. Exo Sisters is just way too weak. Like, to be able to compete in this meta, it's just way too weak. It does have a strong matchup against Ishizu Tia, and there was a lot of it in the room, but in saying that, it just folds to literally every other rogue deck out there. So I decided to take Floowandereeze last minute, mainly because of its simplicity and the fact that it's a very strong deck. I feel like I could have done a lot better with it. Out of the 3 games that I lost because I went X3 over 7 rounds, I think one of those games was completely my fault, with the other 2 being nothing I could have really done about it. I bricked one of the games, I drew double M-Pen as well as map, which was just unplayable after using a couple of like quote-unquote board breakers or interruptions. So that was a little bit rough, but one match I literally just gave it away, and that was my first game actually, and I said it in a community post, like I was not fully ready for that regional, not to start off with anyway. Even though I had like 3 or 4 coffees as well as a very strong breakfast, I was struggling. But all in all, it was a little bit interesting to see that there was basically only really meta in the room. I think the only rogue deck that I came across was Heroes. There were a few other decks in the room that you could classify as rogue, but for the most part, people were playing meta. And in comparison to some of the regionals that I've been to previously, like, it's been interesting to see that meta and rogue seem to be dependent on your geography. So like previously I was just playing there's loads of rogue deck, but then when I went to this regional, it was basically all meta, which was interesting. There was also quite a lot of sword soul in the room, which makes me just consider like why people are starting to jump back on that deck. But anyway, that is me waffling on. Finished X3. Probably could have done better. Do not drink, ladies and gents, before a tournament. Not if you wanted to do well anyway, but I will say it was a whole lot of fun, put it that way. But yeah, anyway, ladies and gents, I will get straight into the deck profile. You can see what I played, give you my thoughts and opinions on the deck. And we all know what Floowandereeze is, ladies and gents. It's a strong deck, to say the least. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the profile. Okay, ladies and gents, here is the list. Now, I'm not going to talk too long about the Floowandereeze cards because they're pretty much set in stone now, and didn't really deviate from the Floowandereeze cards, apart from like maybe 1 or 2 cards that are not realistically what you would expect to see in a standard list. But without wasting any time, let's get into it. So, played a triple Floowandereeze and Robina, nothing need to be said there. Triple Eaglin. I also played the double Stray, just because I wanted to mess about with the graveyard a little bit more and get my Floowandereeze cards in rotation. So I didn't mind starting off to see this. Obviously, Rabina and Eaglin are your better starters, so you typically want to go for them first if you don't see map. So yeah, and also the 1 Takan, just to kind of like resolve a few things in a banish pile. I also played the double barrier statue, ladies and gents. Now, the reason I went for the 2 barrier statues is because I was aware of the Telements matchup, and getting 1 barrier statue milled means one of your one of your most powerful power plays is kind of like not happening, basically. So I went with the 2, and also going through 1 barrier statue and then putting up a second one just severely cripples your opponent. I did it a couple of times and it just meant I won the game because the out of the first one, but it wasted their battle phase, and I was able to re-establish my board and then just do it all over again. So I did value the second barrier statue. This was the 41st card, so if you wanted to, you could take it out and just play the 1, but I was just aware that Kasturi can mill potentially like 10 cards out of your deck, so hitting a barrier statue is potentially high possibility, so I went with the 2. As for the big birds, double M-Pen as you would expect, as well as the Rise of the Mega Monarch, as well as the Mist Valley Apex Avian. Like I said, I seen M-Pen, I seen double M-Pen basically. I don't know what was going on with my draws. I hit a prosperity one of the times and I managed to just like prosp and turn over 3 D shifters, and I pile shuffled, handed it to my opponent, but still I was just getting some mad random assortment of cards, but it is what it is. And then last up, for the last of the monsters, obviously the triple D shifter. You see this, you potentially can win the game depending on what deck it is, unless you're playing the mirror, that is. So yeah, and that is it for the monsters, ladies and gents. Now on to the Floowandereeze spells and traps. As you would expect, we played triple magnificent map. Nothing more needs to be said there. It's just one of your biggest starters basically. Triple Floowandereeze and the Advent of Adventure, as well as the 1 Floowandereeze and the Unexplored Winds. Now in the mirror match, ladies and gents, Unexplored Wind is probably the most powerful card. It's what you're trying to get to first, because if you can get to Unexplored Winds first, you're typically going to be in a better position, just because you can send off one of your opponent's cards very, very easily, and it kind of helps you just pick apart boards with its once per turn, using your opponent's card to be able to use as like tribute fodder basically. So this is most important thing, and this is why I lost the mirror match, because my opponent won a die roll. He set up, he managed to open this card in his opening hand, he set up, and then when he seen what I was playing, he instantly knew that he was going to come up against Floowandereeze, and he just basically just used this and picked apart my board, which was a little bit frustrating, but like I said, it is what it is. For the non-engine cards, we ran the triple duality as you would expect, ladies and gents. Nothing more needs to be said, as well as the triple prosperity. I didn't see these two as much as I would like. There was a couple of instances when I seen both of them, which just felt really good, because you can dig so deep into your deck looking for a specific card. But there was other times where I just never seen it. Now I'm only running 41 cards. And it just never came up. It just never came up as much as I would have liked it. So I don't know, maybe that was just down to the way that I was shuffling. But like I said, I did pile shuffle, but I just couldn't seem to draw this card as much as I would have liked. Triple Dark Ruler no more in the main deck, just because we need some kind of effect negation going second, because this deck does not play well going into boards. And then for the Floowandereeze trap, we ran the 1 Floowandereeze and the Dreaming Town. This is to be expected. You can recycle this and just keep this in rotation as much as you like, especially with Tarkan in rotation. So definitely a power card. The Book of Moon effect is something that I did not use in my match against my Sprite player when I went first. When I was playing him basically. So it was my first round of the day, played against it. He got to a point where he had like 4 monsters on field, and I potentially was thinking, oh my gosh, he's gonna go into Underworld Goddess and link off my Riser, and I tribute summoned Riser at that point. I spun a card, and I should have chained the Book of Moon effect, and I just completely forgot, just because I was a little bit hanging. I was a little bit worse for wear. I still had drink in my system, so I just heavily misplayed, and that led me to lose that game basically. And then I'm not even gonna, I'll tell you what happened in game 2. In the second game against him, I had everything you could expect: Judgment, Harpy's Feather Storm, 2 monsters on field, and I forgot to tribute summon M-Pen. Because in my head, I looked at, I believe it was like Eaglin or something like that, and it was a water, and I was thinking, oh, M-Pen's a water as well, so my Harpy's Feather Storm isn't going to be live. And lo and behold, M-Pen is obviously a wind wing beast, which just absolutely I don't know why I did that. I knew that already, but it just meant that I just lost that game. So it is what it is. Sometimes these things happen, and I do blame the lack of sleep and the drink that was in my system. But anyway, for the remainder of the traps, non-engine traps, triple infinite impermanence, as well as triple evenly match in the main deck. Again, it's a blowout. Telements typically puts crime in their side deck, so they're not normally expected to evenly match, and this can just wipe an entire board, so it is a good feeling. Next, for the extra deck. Now these are the cards that are kind of like were worth something, in a sense that I could have potentially summoned them, even though
yeah, I never actually went into my extra deck thinking about it. There are instances where you can do, and obviously Nightmare Phoenix, just in case you got a Floodgate, Zombie World, for example. You can normal summon just one of the birds, then you can normal summon via map and then pop Zombie World. So Phoenix is good for that. Mirologic Aggregator, this is just the ultimate Slayer target, spoiler alert. Place Slayer in the side deck. Effect negation, bounce totally awesome, all that kind of stuff. Didn't actually come up because I didn't see Slayer when I needed to. Lyrillus Assembled Nightingale, this is obviously a bridge into Zeus. I forgot to put down the Magician in here, to be honest, but like I said, I didn't even go into my extra deck, so it wasn't really an issue. One Fairy the Baron Blossom, again, this is just the Slayer target, just to be able to kind of like cycle a card out of my hand and just kind of mulligan one basically. One Outer Entity Entis, I potentially would put another one in, but I couldn't find one. But again, never came up. When I did prosper, I prospered the same 6 cards, which I'll show you in a moment. But yeah, Entis, that one was a problem. United Transversa, in theory this card would have been good because it's a non-targeting like mind control basically that just lasts. You can just swap a little bird out for a big bird and then obviously beat over it, but it never came up. Again, like I said, didn't really go into my extra deck. One Sharag for the same reason behind the Baron Blossom, just allows me to kind of search a bird, especially if I've got the Barrow statue in the graveyard. I can just literally search Stree or something like that. One Relinquished Anima, again just for zone placement. If my opponent obviously combos off and doesn't remember to forget about zones, I'll just take one of his monsters, simple as that. And then the one Double Arsenal AA Zeus the Sky Thunder. Yeah, these are the cards that I potentially would have summoned but just didn't basically. And then my Prosp targets obviously just literally doesn't matter. Wind Pegasus was another Slayer target, Nightmare Cerberus, Prosp, King Gadashi Fukinoko, whatever his name is, Prosp, and another one for Prosp. So like I said, didn't go into the extra, didn't need it, is what it is. And then finally, ladies and gents, onto the side deck, we had a triple Harpy's Featherstorm. This card is stupid. They say it's an unsearchable one-off, but with the amount of pots that you play in Floowandereeze, you can see it fairly consistently. Every time I sided it in, I seen it, and there was twice when I sided it in. As soon as I flipped it on my opponent, they just scooped it up. They knew that writing was on the wall then. Judgment is probably a good card just to side in, because when you're playing Floowandereeze, they typically put in some blowout cards, or even some back row removal, or just go straight into activating Zombie World. So what I used to do going first is obviously set up my Solemn Judgment, set up my field, and just have Judgment as a bit of an insurance policy. There was one instance when I seen Judgment and Harpy's Featherstorm, and that was crazy. Like, I tried to Zombie World me and my opponent. I think I was playing a Shizu tier. I tried to Zombie World me, a Judgment in the Zombie World. He Dark Ruled my field, and then he tried to activate Shiren in the hand, and I just flipped Harpy's Featherstorm and then just extended the handshake. It was horrible. I had M-Pen, Barrier Statue, just a full works on field, Dreaming Town. It was crazy. So definitely a power card, and I would recommend it, especially with the way that how popular Floowandereeze are. People will just put in the back row just to kind of like get rid of map, maybe search the Zombie World, stuff like that. Double Ultimate Slayer, I do now own the third. It came today, believe it or not, but I didn't have it for the tournament, so this is what I actually took to the tournament. I didn't actually see Slayer, which was a little bit of a shame, because there were instances where I could have really just done with the bounce basically and the pop, but it is what it is. Triple Spooky Dogwood, I should have sided this in, to be honest, against the Flu player going second. I probably should have sided it in. I decided to go with a bit more aggression because I wanted to play the game, but Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood definitely would have served me well going into game 2 with that player, because I potentially could have forced out a draw, but you know what, it is what it is. Triple Lightning Storm, this just kills Floowandereeze. This is what I sided in actually, because I wanted to press the issue, and Floowandereeze, obviously, because they have the normal summon of their monsters, they're always in attack position and they're always face up, so you can always clear a board via Lightning Storm. So that was my theory behind it basically. As well as one Twin Twisters. I just wanted some kind of card that could chain to an effect but hit multiple cards. Typically Telements always have their field spell and potentially a Sunyek in the back row, so you can hit those two. And then there's obviously instances where there's like an infinite impermanence on field and maybe another field spell. So the Twin Twisters, In theory, it's good, and I tended to side it in with the Lightning Storm, and then obviously the matchups where I didn't need these shifter, I take them out and put these 4 in. So yeah, it is what it is. And that is it, ladies and gents. Like I said, Floowandereeze is a very strong deck, a deck that I do like, mainly because it does its own thing. It doesn't care about what's going on around it. It just literally just does its own thing, and because of that, I really value it. It's a unique way to play the game. Super strong. Not too sure how the deck's gonna fare when a barrier statue gets banned, or if it potentially might get banned, but we'll definitely have to see in the future. But all in all, ladies and gents, we find ourselves at the end of another video. If you did like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.